And so we have seen how you starting off by giving up your defilements, and then that leads obviously to some sort of samadhi experience, which then leads to the insight into the Four Noble Truths, and you get experiential confidence, this direct insight. You have no doubt anymore about the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And that means you become a stream entry. So first of all, we have just seen now what that means in regard to the Buddha, and then we also have the same things for the Dhamma and the Sangha. So we're going to have a quick look at that. These are the standard paragraphs that you find in the suttas again and again in so many different places, and they're actually very interesting, but on this retreat we're going to pass over them fairly quickly because we can't do everything, unfortunately, in great detail, so we're going to have to do it fairly quickly. So then we have the experiential confidence in the teaching. The teaching is well explained by the Buddha, apparent in the present life, immediately effective, inviting inspection, relevant so that sensible people can know it for themselves. So this is the standard phrasing for the Buddha. It is well explained, etc., apparent in the present life. In other words, you see it now. Immediately effective, akaliko. Again, you don't have to wait to be able to see these teachings. Inviting inspection. You can come and see it for yourself by practicing in the right way. It is relevant, or in other words, it leads you onward. It leads you onward towards all the purposes and the aims of the path, Nibbana itself, and sensible people can know it for themselves. So we have to be sensible. So if you are sensible, then you have a chance. If you're not sensible, you have a problem. So please be sensible. So there you are. So that is the Dhamma. And again, it's a beautiful. It's actually very meaningful. These few words, but we will leave it at that for now. Then we have experiential confidence in the Sangha, the noble Sangha, the Arya Sangha, the Sangha of the Buddha's disciples is practicing the way that is good, that is sincere, that is systematic and proper. The way that is good is supatipanno. Sincere here is ujjupatipanno. Not sure why he has sincere. It means like the straight way or the direct way or the right way. Systematic means that it is accordance with dependent origination. Proper means that it is appropriate and right. The 4 pairs, the 8 individuals. This is the Sangha of the Buddha's disciple that is worthy of offerings dedicated to the gods. Worthy of hospitality, worthy of religious donation, worthy of greetings with joint palms. It is the supreme field of merit for the world. So this is a bit unusual the way this is translated, but it means they are worthy of offerings dedicated to the gods. Here is that in those days, offerings were normally given to the gods, but now the Buddha is saying, actually, don't give it to the gods, give it to the Sangha instead. That's kind of nice, isn't it? Forget about those gods. Give it to the Sangha. Sangha is more worthy than the gods. That's essentially what he's saying. Because those gods, they are there. Maybe they can help you a little bit, but the Sangha can take you all the way to Nibbana. The Sangha is the most worthy of these offerings. Ahuneyo, pahuneyo. Ahuneyo here. It is before Buddhism, Ahuneyo would be dedicated to the gods, because these were the Vedic gods. But after the Buddha has arisen in the world, that is no longer required. Now we have a different place of placing our confidence. Worthy of hospitality, so you look after people. This idea that you build a kuti, for example, for a monastic is considered a very high kind of merit in the suttas. Worthy of religious donation, dakineya. This is what usually would give it to the Brahmins, because the Brahmins were the ones who received religious donations prior to the Buddha. The Buddha arises, now you give those donations to the Sangha is better, according to the Buddha in this case. Worthy of greetings with joint palms, Anjali Karaniyo, Anjali, the joint palms that you see around the Buddhist world in so many places. It is the supreme field of merit for the world. If you want to make merit, that's the place to do it, says the Buddha. But should you be looking for merit? Maybe not. Yeah, maybe that's kind of a bit dangerous. So give where you feel inspired, as the Buddha says. So that is you have become a stream mentor. You have the perfect confidence in the triple gem, the three refuges, and you are not finished yet. You carry on. So what happens next? When a mendicant has discarded, eliminated, released, given up, and relinquished to this extent, thinking, I have experiential confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, then you find inspiration in the meaning and the teaching. Find joy connected with the teaching. You see how these ideas, they are almost like tropes. These are standard phrases that you find in the suttas again and again and again in a variety of contexts. And this here is, of course, the idea of the Buddha-nusati, Dhamma-nusati, Sangha-nusati. And it is especially powerful when you are an Arya. You don't have to be an Arya. You can also find this confidence as an ordinary person, but especially as an Arya. This is powerful. And you see, again, this idea of being inspired by the meaning of these things, and then the Dhamma, and then from that comes the joy. Yay, wow, this is so nice. Wow, this is just powerful. This is so meaningful. This really makes sense. This is going to take me to so much happiness. I'm going to overcome suffering by doing this. I really found the most important thing that anyone can find. I'm so lucky. How did I get so lucky? Or maybe I'm not lucky. Maybe it's just my good karma, thinking in the right way, doing the right thing. Wow, the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the most beautiful jewel, the most amazing gems in the world. Forget about everything else. This is what really matters. Let me aspire to the higher things. You close your eyes, you meditate, you find the joy connected with the teaching. And what happens next? Sorry, I got a bit sidetracked there, but that's kind of where it kind of moves. Afterwards, you find that you find these things. Is this the same? What is it saying here? Thinking, I've discarded, eliminated, relinquished to this extent, released, given up, and relinquished again. They find inspiration, the meaning, and the teaching again. They find joy connected with the teaching. And then you have exactly the sequence. When you are joyful, then rapture springs up. When the mind is full of rapture, the body becomes tranquil. When the body is tranquil, you feel bliss. And when you feel blissful, the mind becomes stilled. And this is the first sutta that we saw on this, as we started off 2 days ago on Thursday. Exactly the same sequence again. So again, the same things again and again and again through the suttas. So you attain that samadhi. When the mendicant has such ethics, such qualities and such wisdom, the ethics we have seen, giving up the defilements of the mind, the qualities here is really related to the idea of having samadhi. These are the qualities of mind, the deep qualities of the mind. And then the wisdom is the insight that leads to the appreciation of the triple gem. So when a mendicant like that eats fine rice, boiled fine rice, with the dark grains picked out and served with many soups and sauces, that is no obstacle for them. So this is kind of the highest kind of food in those days. You have fine rice with the dark grains picked out. Maybe they had a slave who would pick out the bad grains, so they become really refined rice. And you get a variety of curries and sauces. Supang via byanjanang va, as it's called in the Vinaya. Supang is soups, but curries usually means curries, but kind of soup. Same word as soup, same Indo-European root. What? There's no obstacle for them. Compared with cloth that is dirty and soiled, it can be made pure and clean with water. What is happening here? Or native gold, which can be made pure and bright with a forge. In the same way, when a mendicant of such ethics, such qualities, or such wisdom eats boiled and fine rice with dark grains picked out and served with many soups and sauces, that is no obstacle with them. So I guess the idea here is that you will not be defiled by these things. In the same way as fine or bright gold is forged, in the same way your mind has been made pure. It cannot be easily be defiled again afterwards. So the mind has been purified. They meditate, and now we come to the Brahma Viharas again. See how the Brahma Viharas come back again and again and again. And here also in this particular sutta, they meditate spreading a heart full of love or of goodwill to one direction, and to the second, and to the third, and to the fourth. The same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around, they spread a heart full of loving kindness to the whole world, abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and ill will. We discussed this already before. We saw this in the Subha Sutta, the first half of this retreat, but here we have it again, the idea of practicing the metta so completely and fully. And the idea here, just like I mentioned before, is, the idea here is that you can kind of start this process just in your daily life, the way you think about people, the way you live your life, sometimes on a meditation retreat, or if you are here or whatever you are, when you have extra time to practice metta, practice meditation, just all day you can kind of use your mind to spread happiness and to spread that sense of goodwill to the people around you. Remembering the people that you really respect, remember the people with good qualities, and just wish them well. Sometimes when I walk on my walking path in the monastery, at Bodhinana Monastery, all I do is just kind of think of the Sangha, think of the monks in the monastery, and I try to think how fortunate I am to be living in a community like that, with like-minded people who try their very best to live a good life. How fortunate I am, how lucky I am to live among people like this. And then I see the good qualities in those people. And as you see those good qualities in the people, you get this pure view of these people. And then it's much easier to spread goodwill afterwards. So developing these ideas almost like throughout the day sometimes when you can. Seeing the good qualities in the people here at the BGF, or monastics in wherever it is that you find inspiration in certain monastics. You remind yourself of those qualities. You build up that view in the mind, and it becomes very beautiful. It becomes very attractive. You get drawn into that. And in this way you build up this perception of metta in your mind. And eventually, as you build it up in this way, you can then spread this heart full of loving kindness to one direction. All the beings in the northern direction from here, using that idea that you have built up before about the people here or people elsewhere. There are lots of good people in this world. And all of those good people in this world who have lived in the right way in the northern direction, may you be well and happy. And as you do that, as you come from your heart, as you really mean, you don't can't just say it, you mean it. You really wish them happiness because these are potentially your friends. These are good people who you would want to be friends with. These are like potential kalyanamitas. May you be well and happy. And if you really mean that, and if you really wish them happiness, then usually there will be an emotion arising with that. And that emotion that arises, well, that is the metta emotion. It has many things in common with the feelings that you do before you attain samadhi, the feelings of piti and pamudja and these things. It's a happy feeling. It's a very positive feeling, wishing well to others in this way. And then you spread this feeling around, to eventually to the whole world without any kind of limitations. And so this is a very high practice to reach the very high levels here. But you start off in a simple way, like I'm explaining now, and then eventually it reaches the whole world. Yeah, you seek beautiful things in the world because there are many beautiful things going on. There are many beings you can't see. There are the devatas out there. There are the Brahma gods, the kind of the gods that fill up the whole universe. And I have this idea when I look up into the night sky, especially in a place where you can see the whole galaxy, the Milky Way. I kind of see Brahma filling up the whole galaxy. Because the galaxy is like a vision of Brahma. Brahma is, has this kind of large expanses of the world that is filled by Brahma, encompassed by Brahma. So when you look up into the beautiful night sky, it's as if you can envision the loving kindness spreading around the whole galaxy. There's something beautiful about that, because the idea of the metta of the Brahma is very expansive. You see here how it is abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and ill will. That is the mind that is developed like that, a large mind. That's why it can spread around the whole galaxy. But the mind that is evil or bad is often small. It is confined usually to a single being. It's confined to a small space. And so the large spaces in the world, the kind of the large universe around you, or even any kind of large space, that is where you find positive qualities, the positive qualities of the Brahma Viharas and whatever else there is. So learn to see things in the right way, perceive the world in the right way. The world can seem beautiful to one person and ugly to the next person, just depending entirely on how you develop how you approach these things, how you think about them. So in this way, you then bring out this metta ceto vimutti, this limitless mind that doesn't stop anywhere, that doesn't stop at some people or whatever. No ill will, no enmity to anyone. So one of the things about being a Buddhist, ideally we shouldn't have any enemies. It doesn't make any sense to have any enemies in the world. Other people may be your enemies, but that's a different thing. You shouldn't have any enemies in the world. Even if other people think of you as don't like you or whatever, that's their problem. Nothing to do with you. That's kind of irrelevant in a sense. And one of those kind of nice suttas that talk about this is the Kakachupama Sutta, the simile of the saw, Majjhima Nikaya 21, just a few suttas after this one, in fact 14 suttas after this one. And there, the way they do the metta practice, you start with your enemy. You start with not the enemy, but you start with a person who is difficult. And that's very interesting, because normally when we talk about metta, we follow the method found in the Visuddhimagga. You start with the person you respect, the person you like. But in the suttas, it's almost the other way around. You start with a person who is difficult. And the reason for that is because I think the assumption is that you don't have any enemies. Why would you have enemies? There's no point in having enemies in the world. And so because you don't have any enemies, you start with a difficult person, you overcome that, and then you overcome that last barrier that might be there in your mind. And by overcoming that last barrier, the mind is completely freed of these things we call barriers. Barriers are completely gone. And when the barriers are completely gone, then you have a possibility of having this limitless, expansive mind of metta as a consequence. No enmity towards anyone in the world. No one is excluded. Everyone is included. Please don't have any enemies. It doesn't make any sense. If other people treat you badly, it is their problem. It's got nothing to do with you. They are doing that for their own internal reasons. It's not, it's not a personal thing. It is entirely impersonal, coming from these inner qualities. Then you can move in this kind of direction. Then you can start to see the beauty in the world, because there's a much beauty to be seen in this world. Don't allow yourself to be dragged down by the silly, ignorant, deluded perception of other people or the world around you. Stand out, follow the path of the Arahants and the Aryas. They meditate spreading a heart full of compassion to one direction, to the second, to the third, and to the fourth. You understand that even though these people are maybe beautiful, Even though they may have good qualities, they also have suffering. And so you bring in the idea of compassion, the desire to help all beings out of suffering, whatever suffering they may have in their life. Start with metta, then karuna. In the same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around, they spread a heart full of compassion to the whole world, abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and ill will. They meditate spreading a heart full of rejoicing to one direction, to the second, the third, and the fourth. The idea of rejoicing in the fact that there are so many beings in the world who achieve good qualities and go a long way on this path, rejoicing in all the positive things that exist in the world. In the same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around, they spread a heart full of rejoicing to the whole world, abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and ill will. They meditate spreading a heart full of equanimity to one direction and the second, the third, and the fourth. The idea here is often that you know that in the end beings will pass on according to the karma. Some will be happy, some will be unhappy, some will go to good destination, some to bad destination. Some will down the track, everyone will kind of zigzag between various kind of destinations, like a roller coaster of samsara. And then all you can do is watch on with equanimity, because it's just the dukkha and the world moving between all of these various realms and happiness and suffering. In the same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around, they spread a heart full of equanimity to the whole world, abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and ill will. They understand there is this, there is what is worse than this, and there is what is better than this. There is an escape beyond the scope of perception. So there is this, there is the metta, there is the karuna, there is the Brahma Vihara. There is what is worse than this. Well, that's pretty much everything, because the Brahma Viharas are pretty high. There is what is better, like maybe the immaterial attainment, and ultimately there is an escape beyond escape beyond the scope of perception. In other words, there is nibbana itself, for the cessation of perception, all of these kind of things. Ultimately, you have to escape even from the Brahma Viharas. You know this, why? Because you are already a stream enterer, and now you are setting your mind towards the very end of this path. Knowing and seeing like this, their mind is freed from the defilement of sensuality, freed from the defilement of desire to be reborn, and freed from the defilement of ignorance. When they are freed, they know they are freed. They understand rebirth is ended, the spiritual journey has been completed, what had to be done has been done, there is nothing further for this place. So you are freed. This is the idea of freedom again. And you have to go beyond even the liberations of mind, of samadhi, of the Brahma Viharas, to end all the defilements of the mind, freed from the defilements of sensuality. This is the kama asava. We're talking about the asavas here, the root defilements of the mind. The bhavasava, freed from that, the desire to exist, the desire to be reborn, the desire to go on, freed from that. You're also freed from the desire of ignorance, which might here be equivalent to the desire not to exist. The vibhavatana, the asava, not to want to exist, to end your existence. You don't even want to end your existence. You don't want to exist, nor do you want to end your existence. You just chill out until the end of existence comes by itself. And then when you are freed, you know that you are freed. You know that birth has ended. This is the weird thing, is that you understand the causality between tanha and the rebirth, that craving must give rise to rebirth, and because you know that you have ended the craving, you know that there cannot be any rebirth in the future. So you know rebirth is ended. So if you don't know that, it means you're not an arahant yet. So this is how you become an arahant according to this sutta. Overcome your defilements, gain some sort of samadhi, which is implied there by overcoming the defilements, become a stream enterer, practice the Brahma Viharas, and then you make an end of it all. It's quite simple, isn't it? It sounds pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's just a few steps like that. Ding. But it takes lots of commitment. That's kind of the issue here. Okay, so how does this sutta end? This is called a mendicant who has bathed with the inner bathing. That's kind of nice, isn't it? Because defilements is like dirt, and usually we wash our bodies and our clothes to kind of get rid of the dirt and the defilements. But of course the mind defilements, you cannot really bathe them in an ordinary way. You need the inner bath, and the inner bath is the Noble Eightfold Path, ending in this way. You're bathing your mind, pure. This is why the mind is purified, rid of defilements. So please take that inner bath. Now at that time, the Brahmin Bharadvaja of Sundarika was sitting not far from the Buddha. He said to the Buddha, "But does the worthy Gautama go to the river Bahuka to bathe?" So he has just been told to take the inner bathing, and then he asks the Buddha whether he goes to the river Bahuka to bathe. It seems a bit kind of beside the point, doesn't it? But anyway, that's what the Buddha has to deal with. Brahmin, why go to the river Bahuka? What can the river Bahuka do? Yeah, remember the Brahmins, they're just like today. They go to the river Ganges and they go to the river Ganges. I think if you bathe in the river Ganges, then you become pure by that. And in those days it was exactly the same, except that the rivers were slightly different. It was the river Bahuka you went to and some other rivers. And it's strange. You get this beautiful discourse, and then this Brahmin says, well, why don't you go to bathe in the river? Much easier than all of this hard work. Yeah, you just immerse your body in the river and bang, you are purified. The Buddha says, hold on. Yeah, hold on. It's not like that. What can the river Bahuka do? And then the Brahmin says, many people deem that the river Bahuka leads to a heavenly world and bestows merit. And many people wash off their bad deeds in the river Bahuka. This is kind of how the Brahmins were thinking. What does the Buddha say? Does it yes, maybe no? What does he say? He says the following. Then the Buddha addressed Bharadvaja of Sundarika in verse. The Bahuka and the Adhikaka, at Gaya and the Sundarika too, the Sarasvati and the Payaga, and the river Bahumati, a fool can constantly plunge into them, but it won't purify their dark deeds. What can the Sundarika do? What the Payaga and the Bahuka? They can't cleanse a cruel person, a sinner, from their bad deeds. For the pure in heart, it's always the spring festival or the Sabbath. For those people who are pure in heart, it is always a happy time, always a spring festival. It's always good. No need for these rivers. For the pure in heart and clean of deed, their vows will always be fulfilled. Things get fulfilled by the very nature of the Noble Eightfold Path, fulfilling them. You don't need to bathe anywhere. You are pure in heart and clean indeed. It is here alone that you should bathe, Brahmin, making yourself a sanctuary for all creatures. And if you speak no lies, nor harm any living creatures, nor steal anything not given, and you're faithful and not stingy, what's the point of going to Gaya? For any well may be your Gaya. So it's kind of obvious. I think the Brahmins really kind of knew this deep down. They knew that the Buddha was telling the truth, that the bathing in the river, it may bathe off your sweat and dirt, but it won't bathe off the inner defilements. When he had spoken, the Brahmin Bharadvaja of Sundarika said to the Buddha, "Excellent, worthy Gautama, excellent," as if he were righting the overturned or revealing the hidden, pointing out the path to the lost, or lighting in a lamp in the dark so people with clear eyes can see what is there. Worthy Gautama has made the teaching clear in many ways. I go for refuge to the worthy Gautama, to the teaching and to the mendicant Sangha. May I receive the going forth, the ordination in the worthy Gautama's presence. This is a real conversion, right? It just goes straight into ordination. I have come for many years here to BGF, still haven't seen anyone lining up after the retreat saying, "Please, may I go forth." I have a long way to match the Buddha in the power, a long, long way. And the Brahmin Bharadvaja Sundarika received the going forth, the ordination in the Buddha's presence. Not long after his ordination, Venerable Bharadvaja, living alone, withdrawn, diligent, keen and resolute, soon realized the supreme end of the spiritual path in this very life. He lived having achieved with his own insight the goal for which gentlemen rightly go forth from the lay life to homelessness. He understood rebirth is ended, the spiritual journey has been completed, what had to be done has been done, there is nothing further for this place, and Venerable Bharadvaja became one of the perfected. It's nice, isn't it? In no long time, 20 years, 30 years, something like that. So there you are. That's the Vatthupama Sutta, and has this beautiful ending. And that is a perfect place to stop. So let's have a short 5-minute break, and then we come back and do some more questions afterwards.